My name is Christina Lamont, and today is December 2nd, 2011. Can you please state your name and your class year?
Yes, my name is Alexa Wood Gata, and I graduated in 1998.
All right. So can you kind of tell me a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up?
Sure. I grew up in, I was born in Orlando, Florida, and we moved to Vermont when I was probably, in the second grade. We lived there for a few years, and then moved back to Florida, to Tampa. So I really spent junior high and high school in Tampa, so I consider myself to be from Tampa.
Very cool. I'm from Tampa.
Yes. Are you from Tampa?
Yes.
Why did I not know that?
I don't know.
I didn't recruit you, though, so I must not have had...
But you did.
Did I?
Mm-hmm. You interviewed me.
I must have...
We've come full circle now. Now I'm interviewing you.
I'm trying to think. That would have been... How many years ago would that have been?
4. I'm class of 2012.
But you would... Yes, you would have. You would have been in my last batch.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
We met at Starbucks.
Yes, we did! We totally did at the mall! The little international mall thing. That is so funny. You're absolutely right. Yes. Yes. Remind me what high school you graduated from?
Armwood.
Why did I not remember that?
It's a long time ago.
That makes sense. Armwood. Got it. Yes. So, I spent a little time. I actually graduated from the academy on Bayshore.
Oh, okay.
All girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did you... So you went to an all-girls school.
I did.
Was that helpful in you finding Agnes? How did you...
Not really. When I was looking at colleges, I had 2 criteria. I was looking for big and boys.
Oh.
Those were after graduating from a Catholic high school, I felt like I had done the girl thing. I was, but then the good news is after I started visiting places like University of Florida, the big places that we all visited, I realized that really wasn't me. And so at the last minute, right before the scholarship deadlines, I applied to some smaller liberal arts colleges, which was smart, which is a lot more me. So I literally applied to Agnes Scott at the last minute in January time frame. So, but anywho, so yeah, it was kind of a lark.
So what did you study at Agnes? What was your major?
I was a psychology major, which is not a huge surprise to anyone who knows me. And I knew I didn't want to go into counseling. Like specific counseling, although what we do is a lot of counseling, kind of talking people through different phases, but I was really interested in the business aspects of psychology, and at that time Agnes Scott had a program where it's called business prep. We don't have it anymore, but it's basically you took certain business type classes, and then you would have this kind of, it's almost like a little certificate, but it just basically says you completed the business prep portion. So, and then,
Okay. Did you have any standout classes or faculty?
Yes, Aisha Cardin, who has passed away, it was an amazing mentor for me. She's a phenomenal psychology professor. Her interests lie in cross-cultural psychology. And when I first started working at Agnes Scott, what appealed to me the most was I would have an opportunity to work with international students. And so for me, that was a really interesting experience. But a lot of what I learned in her classes. She's an amazing woman from Turkey, an Agnes Scott graduate, really phenomenal person. So I also, Dean Hudson was a great mentor for me as well. Fabulous dean, totally amazing at what she does. And so those 2 people were kind of instrumental in the time that I was at Agnes Scott.
All right. So when you were at Agnes, were you involved in any student organizations?
I was. The culture at Agnes Scott was a little bit different then. So if you do your math, I started at Agnes Scott in 1994, and I graduated in 1998, clearly. So it was a different time. There were about, I don't know, you could look at the records, but I would guess maybe 650 students at Agnes Scott, smaller than it is now. And it felt smaller. But at that time, culturally, it wasn't socially acceptable to, for example, be on Tower Council and give student tours and do student government. You had to choose what you wanted to do. Do I want to be an RA or do I want to be in student government? Or do I want to be an RA or do I want to do Tower Council? So it was kind of, you had to choose one. So I decided to run for student government, and I did student government for 4 years. So And then there was a lot of restructuring of the Constitution when I was a student here. We were working on different things in the Constitution, and for the 4 years that I was here is when we transitioned over to there being branches, more like a little bit, I guess, more like the federal government than the structure that it was before. So, and then my senior year, I was president of SGA.
Okay. So what was the social life at Agnes Scott like?
Social life. So imagine Decatur. Decatur is like amazing now. There's tons of stuff to do. You can safely walk into Decatur and not be, it's very different. The relaxing is no longer here. When I was a student, the best thing to do in Decatur was to go to Mix. Are you familiar with Mix?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a Chili's, kind of, sort of, but it was literally the only restaurant downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a chain type of a thing, and the thing to do was go to Mix and get cheesecake, but there was no coffee shops. It was not a fun place. So that was a struggle for us as to what do you do. The good news is I wasn't looking for a college based on a social experience. I was really interested in what Atlanta had to offer me as far as internships and other opportunities. So for me, like my friends and I, we didn't hang out in Decatur at all. We would occasionally go to Mix, but there just wasn't, it's hard to imagine now considering the options. There just wasn't anything to do there. Mm-hmm. So social life for us involved, watching movies on the weekends. For my group of friends, we tried the fraternity scene for a little while, and that just wasn't us. I have some friends that were really involved with the Newman Club, which is the Catholic organization, and they did joint events with Agnes Scott and Emory, and so we would meet people that way. Going out to movies, we spent quite a bit of time, not quite a bit of time, but we probably went at least once a month to Lenox. But a lot of the time that we spent was hanging out here, just kind of talking to our friends and that kind of thing. For me, that was okay because I wasn't expecting, I could have done more if I wanted to. There wasn't a lot of, as far as student activities is concerned, there weren't a lot of like amazing parties. Occasionally they would have a musician that would come that was a popular musician, and that would bring other students from off campus on campus, but most of the time there wasn't a lot going on, so we kind of did our own thing.
Okay. What was Black Cat like when you were?
Black Cat was definitely a highlight. Black Cat for us I think is a little different because now there's some rules in place, and this was kind of pre a lot of the rules. So it was a little bit more wild, I think, probably, if you can imagine that. Not in a excessive drinking kind of a way, but in a, the pranks were not at all regulated. So all kinds of things happened. Never hazing, never anything like that, but in a, tons of decorations. I'm trying to think of compared to what Agnes Scott is like today. There was a huge effort made as far as the really elaborate banners, really elaborate decorations that I think are a little bit different than today's. We had time, right? So when you think about it, we would plan not just, the week before Black Cat, what are your decorations? We would plan a long time ahead to try to be. But it was the same, let's try to find out, the sophomore trying to find out the first year mascot, all that. As far as dates and that kind of a thing, 2 years, is that right? Yeah. 2 years I brought a date to Black Cat, and 2 years I didn't. And that was never a big deal, if you had a date or if you didn't have a date. I actually had more fun when I didn't have a date. But that was never, not really an issue. It was probably helpful that I didn't have a steady boyfriend while I was at Agnes Scott, and most of my friends didn't either. So we were kind of all in the same boat. It might have felt different if in my friend group I was the only one that didn't have a steady boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But that just wasn't how it ended up being. But we had a great time at Black Hat, and everyone went to Black Hat too. Again, not a lot going on. So it was fun. We had a good time.
Did they have like a dance?
Yes, exactly. So same type of a deal. We had one at trying to think, the Westin Peachtree, where that was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one at the Fox Theater, and there's an Egyptian ballroomy place. Mm-hmm. Those are the two that for me were the most fun. So
cool.
Yeah.
We had one at the Fox.
Did you have one?
Years ago.
Yeah.
That was great. So you said you didn't date like a steady boyfriend?
Not a
right?
steady boyfriend.
And the parietals changed
They did.
in 1994.
Yes, they did.
Did that affect you, or did you see anything about that on campus?
No. I mean, there's a lot of discussion now about roommate contracts and that
Mm-hmm.
type of a thing. And so I was a student senator for 3 years and then president of student government my senior year. And so there was a lot of discussion. We had a lot of discussion about